The Great Sphinx of Giza, commonly known simply as the Sphinx, is a grand limescale structure in the Golden Giza Desert of Egypt. The statue is of a reclining sphinx, a mythical creature that combines the head of a human with the body of a lion. The Sphinx is seen as a dangerous, merciless creature in Greek mythology. Allegedly, it gives people a riddle to solve when they approach it. Those who cannot answer have their life taken from them. In Egyptian mythology, however, the Sphinx is slightly less of a cruel creature. Unlike the Greek Sphinx, the Egyptian one is firstly male, and secondly is described as more benevolent than the Greek one. However, they are both thought to be extremely strong, and guarded the entrance to temples in ancient times. Today, the Sphinx is a tourist attraction more than anything. Such an incredible architectural feat naturally draws a lot of attention. Historians and researchers have spent years delving into the history of the Sphinx. Naturally, this leaves a myriad of unanswered questions. Many people have taken it upon themselves to try and answer them. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 mysteries surrounding the Great Sphinx. The hole in the Sphinx head. The first modern archaeological dig of the Sphinx was undertaken in 1817, but it was some time before that it had been visited and captured in painting. Around 1798, French painter Vivant Denon painted a picture of the Sphinx, but when it was finished, critics noticed something a little strange. Denon had painted a man being pulled out of the head of the Sphinx. 2 figures were helping a third out of the head of the statue, which had been painted side on. Now you may wonder whether this was simply a matter of imagination. Perhaps Denon wanted to add something a little different to the painting. But of course, nobody knew for sure. It was the 18th century, and the beauty of both aviation and drone imagery had not been invented yet. However, in the 1920s, aerial photography had become possible. Lo and behold, what appeared on the Sphinx's head? A hole, big enough for a man to fit through. Naturally, this made Denon's painting all the more interesting. It appeared he'd actually seen people climbing out of the Sphinx. This begged the question, who was in the Sphinx, and what were they doing? Not a lot is known about the history of the Sphinx, or at least there isn't a lot of definitive knowledge. But researchers have noticed the head of the Sphinx is made from different materials to the rest of the statue. The head appears to be made out of a man-made substance rather than limestone, hence the darkness of the stone of the head compared to the body. Furthermore, the Sphinx's head has hardly eroded, and appears smoother than its body. This again points to the idea that the head was somehow interfered with, maybe long before any Western people even knew of its existence. But this still doesn't answer the initial question. Why were those men inside the head of the Sphinx? What is the Sphinx's true age? The Sphinx is really old, but how old is old? 500 years? 1,000 years? How about 4,513 years old? Well, that's according to Google, but it's also a very disputed figure. The Sphinx being that old would mean it was constructed in 2494 BC, but some skeptics believe this is simply too recent, while others consider this date being too far back in the past. The Sphinx's greatest riddle is actually its age. Researchers have debated for years over the topic. The accepted version of events is the Sphinx was built for Pharaoh Khafre, who lived between 2603 BC and 2578 BC. It was erected as Khafre was a little annoyed that his pyramid was smaller than his father's. So he surrounded it with several extravagant add-ons, so to speak. But we can't be sure of the exact dates that Khafre lived, nor when the Sphinx was actually built. The dates of construction are only estimates. However, estimates are usually correct within a few hundred years in history anyway. Some of those who are convinced that the Sphinx is a lot older than it's claimed to be are thousands of years away from those estimates, and others believe scientists are a little over the top with their estimates. The Sphinx water erosion theory is a popular one amongst some researchers. It's been scientifically discredited, but that doesn't stop people believing that heavy rainfall could have created an effect on the Sphinx that makes it look older than it really is. However, a number of researchers believe that skeptics are looking at it in the wrong way in terms of the age. New evidence, discovered as recently as 2020, indicates that the Sphinx actually predates the Khafre dynasty in Egypt by a very long time, perhaps even thousands of years. However, this hypothesis is not popular amongst the mainstream science community. It's raised a huge question of our very understanding of human civilization itself. To state that the Sphinx is older than the Old Kingdom implies that some sort of organized civilization existed in this area long before the 3rd millennium BC, said one Sphinx researcher. If this is so, much of what archaeologists and historians think they know about the rise of civilization must be revised. That idea is as threatening to many scientists today as Galileo's idea that the sun revolves around the earth was to the church hundreds of years ago. The Sphinx's secret passageways. The whole idea of secret passageways is a motif in popular culture that's been portrayed in countless films, books, and more. Humans generally like to know the answer to secret questions, or just know the secrets themselves. So naturally, when the idea of secret passageways under the Sphinx first arose in the 20th century, people's imaginations began to wander. Excavators have discovered several more hidden hatches on top of the Sphinx, as well as a number of hidden chambers deep inside the statue. Some of these chambers are water-filled and therefore impenetrable, but others are simply open, winding tunnels. Archaeologists aren't completely sure where these tunnels go, but there are numerous theories as to what they might lead to. One of these theories is that the Sphinx's secret passageways lead to the mysterious Hall of Records. The Hall of Records is thought to be an ancient library, concealed underneath the Sphinx for thousands of years. Its existence has never been confirmed nor denied, but allegedly there have been several government cover-ups where, perhaps, some very powerful people have been keen to hide some very incredible things. One theory is the existence of the Hall of Records is that it was constructed by a race that predated the ancient Egyptians by some thousands of years. Naturally, this would also mean that the Sphinx wasn't built by the Egyptians, but by another race. But it isn't just a secret library that's supposedly located under the Great Sphinx. There could be an entire city too. It's an accepted fact there are 3 different tunnels, at least, that run deep under the statue. These tunnels lead to naturally built caves that exist well below the earth, but what is beyond these caves isn't known. The sarcophaguses beneath the Sphinx may lead to more tunnels that could work towards an even greater secret that's waiting to be discovered. However, due to the age and complexity of the Sphinx's structure, it's both too hard and too dangerous to currently explore this network of deep, ancient tunnels. If researchers were to find evidence of this ancient city, or even the infamous Hall of Records, our very existence, or at least what we know about it, could be thrown into disrepute. Would that be amazing, or would it be scary? Whether the Sphinx is hiding the mysteries that some people believe it might be, or it's actually not quite as secretive as we think, we can all be sure of one thing. Building an incredible stone structure as an ancient civilization was truly a feat to behold. The ancient Egyptians have filled history with spectacular cultural offerings, from the pharaohs to the pyramids to the Great Sphinx itself. When we as a race discover something that's old, it's only natural to begin to wonder whether there is little more to these beautiful pieces of history than the accepted truths. Who knows what really lurks in the shady catacombs beneath the Sphinx? Perhaps one day we might find out. Until that time though, there are plenty more mysteries to investigate. So what do you make of these mysteries of the Great Sphinx? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community whilst working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.